Rainy Day's neon sign flickered outside, casting shadows on cracked asphalt. Inside, the dim bar was a sanctuary from Texas heat and secrets. 35-year-old Emma had lived several lives behind her guarded eyes. She hoped to leave ghosts in Austin's music scene, finding belonging at Rainy Day. Derek poured his heart into every detail, making Rainy Day more than just a watering hole. Emma's stiff smile belied her longing for acceptance among the regulars and newcomers. The past loomed heavy as she poured margaritas, wondering how long peace could last. One stormy night, a drenched stranger demanded to speak with Taylor, catching Derek off guard. Like and subscribe for more stories like this one. The neon lights of Rainy Day's sign flickered outside, casting an amber glow across the cracked asphalt parking lot. Inside, the dimly lit bar was a sanctuary from the Texas heat, filled with the comforting sounds of clinking bottles and low-key chatter. Behind the worn wooden counter, Emma poured herself into her work as if it were a lifeline. At 35, she'd lived several lives already, each marked by secrets and betrayals. Here in Austin, she hoped to leave those ghosts behind and start anew. Rainy Day was more than just another watering hole. It was Derek's baby, a labor of love he poured into every detail. For Emma, working here meant belonging somewhere for the first time in years. Across from her, Derek wiped down the bar with an efficiency born from countless nights on his feet. His friendly demeanor and encyclopedic knowledge of local bands made him the unofficial mayor of Rainy Day. And though she'd been employed there only a few weeks, he treated Emma like family. Or at least, as much family as someone as guarded as her would allow. "You're getting the hang of it," Derek said with a grin, catching her eye from across the bar. "Those margaritas look perfect." Emma smiled back, though the gesture felt stiff to her own eyes. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate his kindness. In truth, she craved it, needed it to counterbalance the loneliness eating away at her insides. "Thanks," she replied curtly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm trying my best." Derek nodded understandingly and moved on to serve another customer, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts once more. The past was a heavy burden, weighing down every step she took into this new life. There were things about herself she refused to acknowledge, much less share with anyone else. And yet, she glanced around Rainy Day, taking in the motley crew of regulars and newcomers alike. In their laughter and camaraderie, Emma saw a reflection of the community she yearned for, a place where she could be seen, heard, and accepted without question or judgment. For now, that was enough. So long as she kept her secrets hidden behind the veil of anonymity, maybe she could finally find some peace in this city of music and magic. But deep down, Emma knew it wouldn't last forever. Eventually, the past would catch up to her again, threatening to tear apart everything she'd built. And when that day came, she shivered despite the warmth of the bar. The thought sent a chill down her spine, not because she feared being exposed, but because she wasn't sure what she'd do once faced with that choice. Risk everything for freedom or cling to the life she'd created in Austin, the demons lurking within. But for now, as long as Derek's welcoming smile remained on his face and Rainy Day's doors stayed open, Emma could pretend that tomorrow wouldn't bring all those troubles crashing down upon her at last. The rain pounded against Rainy Day's windows, casting an ethereal glow over its dim interior as Derek polished glasses behind the bar. Emma stood nearby, wiping down tables with diligent precision, her mind elsewhere. Late evening had always been her favorite shift. The crowds thinned out, leaving only a handful of regulars to chat and laugh, and she could lose herself in the rhythm of cleaning and polishing until closing time. Tonight was no exception, yet something felt off. Emma couldn't quite put her finger on it, but every so often she'd catch Derek's gaze lingering on hers for just a fraction too long before darting away again, his expression unreadable. It wasn't unusual for him to check in with her throughout the night. They'd grown close since she started working here, but this time there was an undercurrent of concern in his eyes that made Emma uneasy. Just as she began wiping down the last table, a sudden gust of wind blew open the door, ushering in a drenched figure clad in a long black coat. Water dripped from their hat onto the polished floor as they pushed through the crowd, scanning the room with an intensity that made Emma's skin prickle. "Derek," the newcomer rasped out, his voice grating against her nerves like sandpaper. "I need to speak with Taylor." Emma felt all the air leave her lungs as Derek's eyes widened in recognition before he turned to face the stranger, hand instinctively reaching for a bottle of whiskey. "Can't help you there," he said firmly, his tone devoid of warmth. "She doesn't want to be disturbed." "Disturbed?" The man barked out a harsh laugh, spitting venom with each word. "You know nothing about what she wants or needs." Emma's heart raced as the stranger started moving toward her, rainwater seeping into the carpet with every step. She tried backing away, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. Panic clawed at her throat as Derek stepped forward, blocking the man's path. "Look, buddy," he said calmly but firmly, "Emma's off limits." But before Derek could intervene further, Emma found herself face to face with the stranger once again. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could do was stare into eyes that seemed to bore straight through her soul as the man whispered two words that would change everything. "I'm here." Emma's world narrowed to those two cold, calculating eyes as they bore into hers, the stranger's voice barely audible over her own racing heart. The air between them crackled with tension, electricity arcing through every fiber of her being. She tried to shake her head to deny this man, this monster from her past, but it was too late. "Derek," she hissed out, her eyes locked with the stranger's as if in a silent plea for help, never leaving the stranger's face as she took a hesitant step back, desperate for cover behind her bartender friend. "Get him out of here." Derek moved swiftly, his strong arm wrapping protectively around Emma's shoulders. She clung to him like a lifeline, trembling uncontrollably as the stranger finally stepped aside, his gaze never wavering from hers. "Taylor," he whispered again, and this time the word sent an icy shiver down her spine. "We have so much catching up to do." Emma swallowed hard, trying to find some semblance of strength in the face of this nightmare come to life. She knew she couldn't run, not now, not ever. Her past had finally found her, and it wouldn't leave until it got what it wanted. "Derek," she said softly, imploringly, "I need you to get me a phone." The bartender's eyes flickered with concern as he reached for the landline behind the bar. "Emma, just calm down." "No." Her voice rose sharply, cutting him off. She knew if they called the police, it would only make things worse. No one could protect her from this man's wrath, not even Derek. "Just give me a phone," she repeated, her voice brittle. Derek hesitated for a moment before finally handing over his cell. It felt heavy in Emma's hand, an unwieldy weapon against the threat looming in front of her. She dialed the only number that came to mind, the one person who could help her now. As it rang, she tried to center herself, to focus on the steady beat of her heart and the warmth of Derek's arm around her shoulders. But the stranger refused to back down, his eyes never leaving hers as he waited for an answer from her call. Finally, the line clicked open. "Hello," a familiar voice answered, and Emma felt a lump form in her throat. "Jake," she said softly, relief washing over her at having reached out successfully. "It's me, Emma." She paused, taking a deep breath as she stared into the stranger's unyielding gaze. "I need your help." Jake's voice was steady and calm, but Emma could sense the concern beneath his words. "Emma, where are you? What's going on?" She glanced at Derek, who stood silently beside her, his eyes darting between Emma and the stranger, sensing something wasn't right. She took a deep breath before answering, keeping her voice low so as not to alert their unwanted visitor. "I'm in Austin," she began, "at a bar called Rainy Day." She paused, gauging Jake's reaction. His silence spoke volumes. He knew where Rainy Day was. They'd met there once when Emma first arrived in town, before she built walls around herself too high to climb over. "Listen," she continued urgently, "there's someone here who's not supposed to find me. I don't know how much time we have before he—" "Who is it?" Jake demanded, his tone sharp with alarm. "Emma, You need to get out of there now. She shook her head slightly, as if trying to clear her thoughts. I can't. Not yet. There's something he wants from me. Or someone. Her words were laced with fear and uncertainty. Jake was asking the right questions, even though Emma wasn't ready to reveal everything just yet. No, she said firmly. It's more complicated than that. Jake sighed heavily on the other end of the line. All right, stay calm. I'll come to you. Just keep in talking until I get there. Emma swallowed hard at Jake's offer, a mix of gratitude and trepidation swirling inside her. She glanced back at the stranger, who was still waiting patiently for her answer. Okay, she whispered into the phone, praying it wouldn't be too late. I'll try to hold him off as long as I can. Jake's warning was stern, but tinged with worry. Emma nodded even though he couldn't see her. I won't. Just hurry. She hung up and turned to face the stranger once more. He looked satisfied now, as if he'd already won some unseen battle. So, she said slowly, trying to sound nonchalant despite her racing heart, what do you want from me exactly? The man smiled, a cold, calculated thing that made Emma's skin crawl. But before he could respond, the door to Rainy Day swung open and Derek rushed in, his eyes wide with surprise. Emma? He approached them hesitantly. Everything okay back here? She forced a smile onto her face, hoping it didn't look as shaky as she felt. The stranger's gaze flicked to Derek for just an instant before returning to Emma. I'm fine, she assured Derek with false cheer. Just having a bit of an awkward conversation. She gestured toward the man behind her, who stood quietly observing their exchange. Derek frowned, his eyes narrowing as he took in the stranger's imposing figure. Why don't we all sit down and discuss this like civilized people? He stepped forward, extending a hand to the intruder. I'm Derek, Emma's das. But before he could finish introducing himself, the man reached out with surprising speed, grabbing Derek by the throat and slamming him against the bar. No one else gets involved, he growled at Emma, his voice dripping with menace as he tightened his grip on Derek. You're going to take me to where she hid it. The stranger's eyes bored into hers, daring her to defy him again. Emma felt a chill run down her spine as she stared back at the man, trying to remain calm even though panic was threatening to consume her. She glanced around desperately for any means of escape or help, but they were truly alone. Derek was helpless in the stranger's grasp, and Jake wouldn't be arriving any time soon. With nothing left to lose, Emma made a split-second decision. Okay, she said quietly, trying not to provoke the man further. I'll take you there. The stranger's grip on Derek eased slightly as he looked at her expectantly. Emma swallowed hard for turning away from him and heading toward the back door of Rainy Day, hoping Jake would get there in time to save them all.